All right. My name is Rich Schmidt. We're here with Paru Mahesh. It's June 14th, 2024. We're at Smera Vineyard in McMinnville. Thank you both so much for joining us today. The first question, either of you can start, is why wine?
Let's see. We used to live in the Bay Area, and obviously there are a lot of wines available up and down the coast, and I enjoyed all the wines in that valley, and I said, okay, if I enjoy it so much, let me try grow it. So we looked at many different regions in California, and obviously the Napa and Sonoma, which everybody knows about, and Paso Robles and San Luis Obispo. I mean, the whole gamut of things, and nothing, either we were beaten by the price or a couple of properties. I mean, there were fundamentally some issues with the properties, so we kind of backed out, and kind of the dream was a little bit fading away. Then Paru here found a great article in Sunset magazine. So maybe you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, I'm an avid gardener and design and all of this, so Sunset, right? So they had an article on Willamette Valley and the growing wine region in Oregon, and how the Pinot Noir was comparable to Pinot Noir around the world, like France. And so we had not heard of Willamette Valley before this, so we said, let's go look there. So
this was in 2012.
2012. And then we ended up in Dundee. There's a place called Black Walnut Inn, so we stayed there. There's a 10-acre vineyard there. This was around April, May, and it was just beautiful. And we fell in love with the place and said, okay, maybe this is where we look. And that's how we looked for the properties. It was kind of almost random, like we found a real estate agent which we're still friends with, so that's kind of tells you about some of the things in Oregon in this area. And so we ended up buying this property.
And those 10 days were the only 10 days it was so gorgeous in April. So I keep kidding and making jokes. Hey, God of marketing in Oregon played a significant role on those 10 days. And then the pursuit, it was long drawn process. From 2012, we would come from the Bay Area just on the weekend and look for properties, and nothing really worked out. And then the property where we live in, it was in the market for a very long time, like 6-8 months, and every trip we would go, we would never look at it.
Actually, he and our oldest son, we have 2 boys, and the oldest son at that time was at the Naval Academy in Annapolis. He'd come home for a few days, and he decided to drive with him. He says, you want to go? We have some properties we can look at. So they drove from the Bay Area. And then,
she kind of gave up.
Yeah, I was getting tired of, weekend driving. So they were going to look at a property in the next driveway. And he's been eyeing it because we're originally from India. And so there's Indian popular god in India called Ganesh, who's the elephant head. And we saw a picture in this property when we saw an MLS. There was a picture of Ganesh in this house. We said, who in the boonies would have a picture of Ganesh? So he was more curious about this place.
Yeah, it was just a curiosity.
And then when our real estate agent, when he came to look at that, she said, the other property is right on the next hill. He said, well, let's drive by and see. So he drove by, and the owner was here. This is where when anybody comes, it's a big event because nobody comes up this hill. Yeah. So then the owner saw him and said, we're kind of looking at property, and we have an appointment tomorrow to look at this. And he said, come on in. So anyway, he can tell his experience once he walked in. Yeah.
I walked in, the person said, yeah, you want to see it today? I said, sure. That doesn't happen, right? And then I just walked inside the house, and I saw Mount Hood, Adam, and Jefferson. This was a beautiful summer evening. All the 3 mountains, gorgeous weather, And I didn't even look at the house. I called her, Paru, from the deck. And I told her, I think this is it. And I didn't even look at the house. And then a week later, yeah, we made the deal. And yeah, and so me and our son, Ganesh, we came to see the property where the Ganesha was. And then that logo ended up in our wine bottle too.
Yes.
You know, so it's like a...
Yeah, our wine bottle has kind of a
The elephant head?
abstract figure of an elephant head, but it's kind of the story behind it is everything we told you.
So, yeah. And then, you know, the journey begins, right?
Yeah.
We bought the property in 2013, but we have two boys, and the younger one was about to go to college. So we didn't want to kind of disturb him in the high school. So 2013 we bought, we didn't move until 2015. And once we moved here, I mean, we started, you know, talking to various people, and this Willamette Valley to date, you know, they were very embracing. You know, these two guys from high tech, who are they? You know, but they just treated us as, you know, friend or family. And then we actually did some tasting with Robert Britton and Bill Sweat. You know, they were the first person. I mean, and it was like amazing. They treated us like we are part of the industry. We didn't even lay one mind, right? And so they were awesome. You know, we are still in touch with them. And I think last year Robert Britton just walked by and we looked at the vineyard. So it's been, and it's still, I feel, you know, everybody in the valley, they are so friendly. And we are still learning, even though we are 7 years in, we are still learning. And every year the nature throws a curveball at us, right? So something happens, and obviously you can look at, you know, Google everything and figure out. But I mean, it's just not the same when you talk to a person who has gone through this experience. So I still, you know, call many people in Dan in Utopia or John in Wrigley, and just, you know, just hey, John or Dan, I mean, hey, what is this kind of a thing? Because they have so much experience, right? Whether to worry about it or do something, and so they still, I mean, that thing is still there, you know, that, what do you call that?
The mentorship and the welcoming,
camaraderie.
teaching. I mean, there's no ego or saying, hey, I don't want to, you know, big vineyards, small vineyards, and so people are willing to share and help each other out. So that's, I think that's been our experience here. Yeah.
Yeah, and then sometimes I joke, it's a lot easier to sit on a deck and sip somebody else's wine rather than having a vineyard and making your own wine. But I wouldn't change anything. You know, this is the best, I think. Even though it's told, we both are very hands-on. Even this morning we were, you know, tucking in. See how the vines are kind of tucked in now, and then if you look further down, they're not.
Yeah, we have to go through.
Yeah, so we still have to keep going. It's a lot of hard work, but I think it's worth it. You know, the enjoyment which we get, you know, having, you know, no idea about farming, no idea about winemaking and vineyard growing. People have helped us and through the whole process, and we sit on a deck and enjoy our own wine, right?
Yeah,
Smera Vineyard's wine.
Yeah, and he always is of the nature, just do it. And that's how we ended up, you know, because most of our friends in the Bay Area said, how did you just uproot yourself and go? And did you have any prior knowledge or did you do anything? He said, no, you know, we figured out as we did. I did go to classes. I actually did a summer course at Linfield. I'm still doing a class at Shimaketa, so I'm, you know, it's almost like, you know, just, you know, use other people's knowledge, you do your own learning, and you also learn by experiencing it. Every year we have a different challenge, and then we learn, and next year we don't make the same mistakes, or we do better, so.
Well, I have more questions about wine, but let's talk about life before wine and how before you got here. So, Hari, let's start with you. Tell me about your kind of early life, where you were born and raised.
Oh, yeah.
And kind of life before coming to Oregon.
Yeah. I was born. I mean, both of us were born and brought up in India, and I went to a school called Indian Institute of Technology. It's one of the premier schools. It's like MIT over here. The entrance exam is crazy hard. So you are kind of working from your freshman until you high school graduate, and then you take the test. So I think only 2% get in out of, you can imagine the population of India. So I don't want to. So yeah, I went there, and then I did engineering over there, and then I was doing more on the ocean engineering and shipbuilding kind of engineering, and then after that, after 4 years, that was also kind of serendipitous. All my friends were applying to go to college in the U.S. I said, "What is this?" So even I went on the bandwagon, and then I started applying to various schools, and then the school which gave me scholarship and financial assistantship and all that, because it's kind of, we are from a middle class family in India, so it's kind of hard for our parents to pay for the tuition. So we always need at least back in the days, this was 36 years ago I came to this country. So back then it's very hard for the parents to pay for. So I applied to various schools on the mainland, and then I also applied to a school in Hawaii, University of Hawaii, Manoa. That's the school gave me scholarship and and financial assistantship and all that good stuff. And then I came for my master's and to do in mechanical engineering more so, and in robotics, underwater robot. And I got my master's from there. And then after that, you want to continue after that? We are both
met at high school.
Met in high school.
The same high school. So my journey actually started, I was born in a small village in India, in southern India, at my grandparents' house. And so my father was a scientist, but my mother didn't finish high school. So I'm kind of first generation of people going to college, but grew up in a city called Chennai and did my schooling, and also went to IIT to do my master's in chemistry, Indian Institute of Technology. We met in high school, but also we became close in college. And then that's how, when he came here, then he came back, we got married, and I came to Hawaii. So Hawaii is the first place in the United States I came to. Loved it. I know, for reasons, of course, Hawaii is beautiful and the weather is great, but also for a first transition, it was a fantastic place because, you see people out. India is very, very crowded, and it's a city, and people are, out and about, and also there's also a certain warmth there. And then Hawaii was similar, and also the flora and fauna, like the bougainvillea and hibiscus and all that. So it felt at home. And I was pretty depressed actually when we moved from Hawaii and came to the mainland. We came to California. He found work in California. And I had a small baby at that time. And it was like, I would see the postman and be so happy because there was nobody, there was nobody on the road. And, it was people of garage to garage generally. It was winter and all that. But so that's how I think our journey, he finished his master's, and then, we got, when I came to Hawaii, I worked in a preschool. I worked as a teller. I was trying to support him, like, Hawaii is expensive, I needed to work to kind of live there. And then, then we started our life in Bay Area. I worked for Hewlett Packard, and both of us worked for tech companies. He had his own startup as well. And then this is when we moved here, and I was still working for the company in the Bay Area. So we still both work in tech. You know, we need to support the vineyard business. You know, so that's where, you know, from our journey perspective. And we have two boys. You know, the older one, Ganesh, went to the Naval Academy, and he was in the submarine force. And after that, he finished his 5 years. He worked at the Pentagon for some time, but now he works at a private company in the Washington, D.C. The younger son went to University of Minnesota, but did the ROTC program, and he served as an officer in USS Roosevelt, surface ship warfare, and so that's our life journey, and we've had a fantastic time in the United States. You know, sometimes it's one of the immigrant experiences where sometimes you seek the opportunities and keep doing. You know, so.
Just do it. The Nike's logo, just do it. It resonates
goes,
so
right?
much with me. You know, nothing is impossible. You know, just do it, and then you will fall. For sure, you will fall. It's okay. You get up and learn from it and keep moving. That's what we have been doing.
It's a journey, right? Yeah, there's ups and downs, but you got to keep experiencing new things. So, yeah.
I'm curious about the work you were doing in the Bay Area more specifically. Tell me a little bit about some of the kind of individual projects or things you were sort of focusing on in the technology sector.
Okay. So I work for a company called Cisco Systems. You might have heard about that. Just a little. So I wrote software for their routers and switches, and I used to write what is called the device drivers. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's a low level, and then where the hardware, you know, you basically program the hardware to send packets. So that's basically what I did for almost 11 years. You know, this was the greatest time in the Bay Area, mid-90s all the way till early 2000. Excellent. You know, I learned a lot of things and obviously made a little money. You know, it was all fantastic. The Bay Area was excellent, and at that time. I mean, now I don't want to go back. But anyway, yeah, so I did that. And then after 11 years at Cisco, I started my own startup company in streaming media. So I'm a filmmaker also. I have made 3 feature films so far. And my latest film is called What If, and it's on Amazon Prime. And the prior 2 movies are on YouTube. You can just watch it. I mean, so that is one of my craziest passion, or the most passionate thing, is to tell a story. And so all this helps me quite a bit. You know, you're interacting with so many people, you're interacting with the plants. That also helps me in my creative process. And so I'm still working on a new movie, and hope I'm raising money for it. So if you know someone, please let me know. And it'll be shot in the Bay Area. It's called The End. The movie is called The End, and it's a story about a entrepreneur and a venture capitalist, how they are trying to change humankind by stopping the aging process. So, which we hear quite a bit, right? So actually Paru showed me an article, you know, that kind of, one more thing is I don't read books, and she finds it, how can you not read a book?
I mean, read books in the sense to get his inspiration for stories, right? He says, I just want to get the stories from life. You know, from
people, you know, and you hear something, you just read some news headline or some news blurb. That's how she pointed me to I think it was like a magazine or something, where I just read the headline. Like, people are working, researching how to stop aging. That moved me like tremendously. This was back in 2017, by the way. That one line, you know, I said, okay, you know, you can imagine what can happen, right? If all of us start to live like 200 years old. you can imagine the resources, what impact it will have on the Mother Earth, and only if, the rich and the famous can afford that treatment and all that, right? I mean, there's so much goes on. All that I put together in that movie. So I won't reveal the end. Whether they are going to go through it and do it or they are not. The impact which it'll have on our Mother Earth resources, So that's my, people ask me, okay, if you had a choice, what would you like to do? To tell stories using, the film. But all this is great. I mean, I keep joking, this is a diversion, which is actually helping me through the process. At the end, hopefully I can tell more stories. And I have so many, because I see so many stories happening in Willamette Valley. The workers and then their stories and how they made it. I mean, we are also immigrant, but I mean, the stories they tell me, it's just unbelievable, what they go through. So all that kind of I want to put together and make a movie in Willamette Valley too. And where you can see the beauty of the place in a very wide format. Like the war movies and epics, and they put a 2.35 aspect ratio. I want to really film a very personal story in that format, So hopefully, I can do that. I have a couple of, I have screenplays for all this. So it's not like it's just an idea. So I keep working on the screenplay too.
I think about your work. So yeah, he worked at Cisco, then then he started a streaming company, then he worked for companies which do streaming, and then had security companies, so he did, and before we moved here. So, and he still was working for a company in Portland in
the movie, in the TV ratings and all that.
ComScore, it was called ComScore. That's how, when we moved here, he worked there. And
still consult, with universities or some companies in technology, and more so in the data, and now we hear AI quite a bit. So yeah, I mean, I have implemented some machine learning algorithm for my startup companies and all that. So
he actually worked at Buildable, which is a company in McMinnville. And so he was leading their engineering for a couple of years. So. My journey, when we moved to the Bay Area, I worked first at Hewlett-Packard. I was doing data management, project management, and then, so I worked both as an individual contributor and leadership roles. I was a senior director of all the sales systems and processes, so implemented Salesforce implementations and all that. So so played different roles. I worked at ServiceNow. I don't know if you heard of the company till last year, and he's more on the engineering software side and more on the business strategy, business applications, so those are the things,
And I think I didn't talk about Artisan Vino.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's how we got connected.
Okay, yes.
Artisan Vino.
That's right.
So the way that happened was, we were coming back and forth from the Bay Area, and then tasting, obviously, doing wine tasting, buying wine, and then when we would go back to the Bay Area, I mean, you don't find those small boutique wineries wine, right? And so obviously, until we didn't move, I cannot do anything. So I moved here, and the first couple of years, we were just busy with the vineyard. And then finally I said, okay, now I need to launch that company, which was artisanvino.com. And then what I do there is work with small boutique wineries like ourselves, and then people can see more of the story behind it. like the stories of the vineyard, the growers, owners, and winemakers, rather than just put up a wine bottle, right, for, hey, buy here. So it was more very personal, and we launched in during COVID, 2020. And it was a good run in that year. And it still is. It's doing pretty good. And then I wanted to...
You have about 8?
Yeah, 8 or 9 small wineries there. Because I wanted to keep the personal touch. I can always onboard, a lot more wineries. Then I lose that personal relationship with each of the owners and winemakers and all that I wanted to have. And so yeah, artisanvino.com.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think one of the drivers for him to start it was, when this Willamette Valley wine or the Pinot Noir is so great that it's not very available all around. Even if you go to California, it's flooded with Napa and Sonoma wine, and not that much, or they have European wine, but not that much. So he said, it'd be great if we can do something where we can sell this directly to consumers. And again, that, personal touch. And so when the consumer goes to the website, it's not just buy wine, but tells a story of the winemakers and the growers, and then you can kind of mix and match. And because if you're in a wine club, you only can get from that winery, but here you can get from 8 different, mix and match, and then again direct to the consumers. I think they can ship mostly to all states in the United States except Utah and
Kentucky.
Yeah.
And last year we also she started a pop-up dinner on the...
Yeah, I love to cook, and you can see we have a garden. This year it's not up to date. Usually, because we both right now are focusing on the vineyard. I'm not getting time to work on the garden, but I did a farm to fresh, so got most of the vegetables and everything from the garden, and again, it was advertised or put tickets through Artisan Vino, and we had about 11 people. So we organized it in a deck and did a wine pairing with Indian fusion food. And most of it, again, was things which we picked up morning from the garden. I love to cook. So, yeah, I like to cook various cuisines, but of course, I know Indian cooking well, so I've grown up with it and know, but I do Mediterranean and all that as well. So.
Well, I'm going to back up for a second to the vineyard. You obviously you mentioned you didn't have a background in any of this. So tell me about putting the vineyard in and about the process for you. What was what kept you going, and what were maybe the biggest obstacles into putting a vineyard in?
I don't know, but the biggest challenge, at least when we moved here, is how do we get somebody to come, and where do you go, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like it's online, all these services are there, but it's not like that available. Mm-hmm. So what we did was, while we were doing wine tasting and all that, so I saw a vineyard, I think it was Brooks, right? And then I saw a bunch of guys working there. I just stopped, and then I said, hey, who is the manager here? Just like that, and then a person showed up, and Jairo, mm-hmm. And you know Jairo? Okay, and then he used to work at Northwest or something else, somewhere else. So I talked to him, and then we kind of lost touch, right? And then maybe 6 months, we were still figuring out what clones and all that. So then he texted me and says, okay, can I come and maintain your vineyard? I said, what vineyard? And then he came, and it was timing-wise, it was perfect because he was branching off from his parentship, if you will. Mm-hmm. And this was his first vineyard he planted. Yeah. So he's still has warm feeling. But he has become so big now. He says,
I don't
"Who
want to
hurry?"
do your 3 acres.
Yeah, I don't want to do it. But if I push him, he'll do it. But I mean, he's gotten bigger, and which is good for him, you know. And that's how we got started. And then he was also figuring out, you know, as he went along. And then he brought his crew and surveyed the property and did all that alignment, you know. And then, oh yeah, the biggest challenge. Yeah, I remember. So we put the vine, and so obviously, as you can see, there is no irrigation. And here it's like 95%, most of them are dry farm. First year, the baby vine, right? So we planned everything else, but how to water them, which is one of the most important thing for a plant, right? And then we didn't plant. Oh man, I mean, that day, I still remember, we were trying to fill water bucket and bucket. And then we were trying to put it in, oh, that's not going to work. And then I said, we were talking about it, hey, how come we didn't plan for water, everything else? You know, compost and this and that, everything was there. And then what we did, we bought this tubes, of course, from OVS, or I think they were something else before OVS bought it. So we bought how much? I think 18,000 feet.
No, we quickly made the tubes, but I think again, the perception of dry farming says everybody dry farmed. We didn't realize the first 2 years you have to water them. And we realized we did a little bit second year, but the first year, so we realized when we went through the situation, and then we kind of started learning, okay, this method doesn't work, okay, try another method. But then we did put the irrigation for some time, and then after that it was getting in the way because we do organic farming and sometimes hoeing and things, so we removed everything. But
it's over there. We can take a shot of that, and then you can edit it in. You can see the amount of tubes. So if you know someone, I'm selling it for free. How about that?
No, but I think, stepping, a few steps from a process perspective, right? We also need to figure out what clones to plant and where to plant. And this is where, when we mentioned Robert Britton, Bill Sweat, somebody introduced us to them, and we did barrel tasting because they were kind enough to say, okay, we'll help you. Sometimes a barrel tasting will tell you what the clone tastes like. So then that's how we kind of decided on the clones. We have 3 Pinot Noir clones, 115, 777. There's a block there, Pommard, and a Chardonnay. So it's again, to the community piece of it is like we just reached out, and people were willing to help us, and it's not like we hired a consultant or we just learned and then figured out. And then we had Jairo who planted, and he managed for a couple of years. Then he got very big, and then we have somebody else now. He does most of the some of the tractor work. In fact, this morning we were working on this too. And so when we need the crew for pruning, picking, and some other, hoeing, then we get the crew. So.
Tell me about the decision you mentioned farming organically. Tell me about the decision to farm organically, to do dry farming. Why, and how has that gone since the initial struggle? How has it gone?
Organic farming, I mean, it has gone good. No problem at all. But the reason why we wanted to do organic is, we didn't want to spray any herbicide because, Roundup and all that. I mean, you're going to drink or eat. Even our vegetable garden, we don't put anything, and we do by hand. We just remove all the weeds, and it's kind of a little bit taken over by weeds at the moment, but we'll get to it. And so it's basically,
At least our philosophy is, we live on the property as well, and so we don't want to spray, and so it is more expensive, and but again, we are farming on 3 acres, and that's a choice, So to
Yeah.
that, yeah. Even now, a lot of bigger vineyards are going organic, and slowly a lot of people are moving towards organic. Yeah. Whether they certify or not, I think it's so much better for the wine as well. So.
Did you always plan to make wine once you put grapes in the ground?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So tell me about the process of starting to make wine.
Okay. We planted in 2017, and it takes about 3 years. So we had the fruits in 2020, and at that time, the person obviously we did custom crush, and the person who did that was Alberto, small label. It was called Harmonia, and he was farming too at the same time. So that was kind of a good combination, and so we used him for the first year. So our first vintage 2020, and that one is actually native yeast. So it's very, I said, okay, the first one, just do it without any yeast, and it turned out good. Even though that was a year of fire and all that, I think it turned out good. And first year, it's not that much production anyway. So I think we are out of Chardonnay of 2020. Maybe one case, 2 case, which we are saving. But so yeah, he did that, and then it got. The next year we changed because it was too far out. His winery was in Aurora. It was a long haul, and we didn't want to do that. And then we came closer, and then now ultimately we are doing at Wrigley, custom crush, and so it's closer, much closer. And then I mean, so far it's been good. One of the vintages, Dan at Utopia made it, and that scored 90 points, 2021 Pinot Noir, and we are excited about that, And
It was the second year.
Second year.
Vintage, yeah.
yeah. And 2022, we didn't make any wine. We just kept it, and we sold all the fruits. And then 2023, we are making, and we typically try to sell 50% of our grape, maybe 40 to 50% of grape to a winery. And this year it's been challenging. So if you can help me with that.
Tubes and grapes.
Yeah.
Everything's available.
Yeah.
I know, it's interesting this year. Everybody is saying it's been challenging to sell grapes, to get buyers,
Yeah.
You will have to wait and see, how, sometimes you can do much ahead of time, lock in, but sometimes people are hedging and see. Yeah.
So tell me about, you mentioned the label a little bit earlier and the kind of the design on it. Tell me about coming up with a name and a label and getting your wine into market.
Maybe you want to?
I will. Yeah, maybe we should have you see the bottles as well at some point.
Sure,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Our label is called Smera Vineyards, and Smera means smile in Sanskrit. Again, that's going back to our origins. And so we have 2 boys, but each time we didn't find, whether we're going to have a boy or girl. We just waited for the surprise. But every time we had a name chosen, if it was a girl, and it was Smera. And since we didn't end up with a girl, we named our vineyard Smera Vineyards.
It's giving me a hard time. No, just kidding.
So, and then the label, we'll show you the label, but it's a very simple label, but it has a Ganesha, kind of an abstract Ganesha, and we designed it, and so we've just continued to keep that label. So.
What's it like selling wine with your name on it?
It feels great. Yeah, absolutely.
What's been the response?
So far, so good. I want to sell more. That's all. But so far, so good. People have been liking it, especially in the Bay Area. All our friends and all our professional network. So they have been, helping us quite a bit but I want to sell more.
Yeah, we have it in a few restaurants here. Hamblin in he's carrying, and then Taste of India. Actually,
GVB.
GVB recently, they're carrying the Pinot Noir. And yeah, it was in Capo.
And Dundee Bistro.
Dundee Bistro. So we have to go back and
Cool.
Yeah.
see. Yeah.
So far, so good. Yeah.
So it's still a pretty young vineyard. You're still getting used to it, but I'm curious from your early perspective, what is the I guess the terroir of the what does it taste like? What's special about the grapes here?
The Chardonnay, it has a lot of tropical feel to it, and with accent of the melon, honeydew melon, and with a tinge of rose, and the very little, and then 2020 has some pineapple accent too, so very subtle. So that was good, and the Pinot Noir, it's more on the dark cherry with some little bit of licorice, and yeah, you should taste it. I mean, I can say it's great, but you have to like it.
You mentioned starting Artisan Vino as a kind of a long gestating project for you. Tell me about who you seek out to work with. You mentioned you could have a bigger company. You keep it pretty small. Who are you looking to work with, and what are the stories that are attractive to you?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, all the folks who are on the platform. I mean, I didn't know them before, right? And so I just go for a wine taste, and if I can connect with them at a personal level, all these people, because I'm a stranger, they are a stranger, right? But I mean, if we can connect at some level, which I did with all of them, and that's what I look for mainly. If I can relate to them, their story, the struggle, same thing, right? So all the folks and everybody, at least on the platform, I mean, they went through a lot to get to this stage, and they used to have another job very similar to us, and the story, all that resonated. So I think I made that decision, to bring them on, and
you're also looking for kind of to cover all of Willamette Valley, because we have Benedetto from Dallas to
I think the northeast is Ribbon Ridge, Dan.
So it's kind of covering kind of Willamette Valley, not just focused on one particular area.
It's a kind of unique concept. So tell me, you mentioned obviously starting during 2020, starting with a bang as everybody was buying wine. Tell me about how it's gone since, and what what the future looks like for Artisan Vino.
It has gone good, but it can always do better, right? I mean, and we have sold quite a bit of wine bottles. I don't remember the exact number, but I mean, it has moved quite a bit.
What's the customer base?
Yeah, the customer base is almost close to 500, and then it's very, during the holiday season is where it just picks up like significantly, and it just makes up for the entire year, right? I mean, I'm sure most of the wineries face the same cycle. So it's been going good, and then future, we have done very little marketing on Artisan Vino or Smera Vineyards too. So actually Paru has been doing a little bit more marketing too, getting the word out and talking to more people. But that will help, I think, quite a bit, because people are not aware, because I think she tried to get some article on Artisan Vino on Oregon Wine Press. That will be a good place to start so that's going. I mean, if you can do a little bit more marketing, I think it will.
Your social media and all that. We do little, we have Instagram and all that, but it's not as, when you see a lot of wineries every week, you'll get something. We haven't done that level. So, I mean, every time there's more you can do, right? We just have to prioritize what's, balance everything out. Yeah.
So obviously with the vineyard, you guys mentioned you're out here working on it today. Tell me about sort of your level of engagement with the vineyard and future here. Is it going to grow? Is it going to change in any way?
Okay. We are super hands-on. I mean, to a point, if we feel one of the plant is not doing well, at least I feel sad. No, literally. I said, okay, how can it suffer? I have been attending to you. What happened? So we are not going to expand. We are not, and we are pretty comfortable with this size, and we can manage most of it ourselves, and which we enjoy. And until physically I'm able to do it, I think I want to continue. And
Yeah, I think also we have to expand into this open space and want to keep this open, and we want to keep all the trees and not. So from just the organically how this is situated, I think this is good for now. And I think he is very hands-on and he is very emotional with the plants. And sometimes say, it's all right, they're plants, But so I help when I can, and but he's very, very involved, and he obsesses over, I saw this. Is it okay? Let me call Dan. He said, no, you'll be fine, So, but yeah, that's the level of, intensity he has with the vineyard. So.
And a gopher ate my plant.
Yeah,
I was not too happy with that.
And walk every day to trap, put the traps. And so you're hearing that. I think it's been a rodent season this year. Yeah.
Too many. Yeah.
It's always something, though.
Yeah,
Yes,
there is always something. Always something.
Yeah.
Is it what you expected, having a vineyard?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah. I did not.
Oh, you did not? Okay.
I didn't sign up for all the work. But I do it, and sometimes it's like, I'd rather do my gardening, but it's just you have to prioritize because, if you don't do things at the right time in the vineyard, there are problems. Like, you have to make sure you remove the leaves and you create the airflow and position and all this stuff. So I understand that, and I said, okay, I'll work with you as well. So, yeah.
Yeah.
You talked about the warm welcome you got from the Oregon wine industry. I'm curious about if you've seen the industry change in any way since you've been here, and as you're now part of it and have been for a little while, what the industry looks like in 2024. Where is Oregon wine right now?
I think the recognition is happening for sure. Oregon wine and this area, more so. We have definitely seen that change. But people-wise, I don't think I have seen any change. Maybe I'm not looking more, but at least, the circle of people I know, they have been very warm, and we all connect, and then the bigger boys are coming in, right, from Napa and France, and they're buying up properties, and hopefully we still will have this, uniqueness where people are still together. I mean, nothing against Napa or anything. It has become too commercial. The personal, wine is about people, friends, family. And of course, don't get me wrong, it is a business. But if there could be a balance, between that, which at least I think, Oregon has that balance to date. So hopefully it'll continue. And
it is. Yeah. It is growing definitely. Even when we came to now, you see downtown McMinnville is so much more crowded. There's so many more tasting rooms. There's so many people visiting. So obviously the word is going out and people are coming. But I think for people-wise, again, we have built great relationships here with so many people, and definitely I think, the other piece of it, you said, travel, again, touching on the whole personal and relationship, we do travel for wine, like he wants to visit all the wine regions in the world.
Before I die.
And so, when we travel, we also look for these smaller vineyards where we can really talk to the winemakers, and we've had great experiences that way, seeking out these places rather than going on a tour or, even in looking at the big established, where you're just another, after the 20, you're just another person on the tour. We've been where we, just since the stories, we were in Rioja in Spain, and we were staying in a small village called Abalos, and the downstairs was a tapas bar, and upstairs was just, they rented out rooms. And so one evening, just hanging out in the tapas bar, and that was the harvest season. So everybody there around, every family has like 4 hectares, 5 hectares, or things like that. So this was the time when all of them came just after harvest to kind of, to the tapas bar, and then we just started chatting and made friends with people who came. And one couple said, "Hey, we're going to go crush, do you want to come with us?" So we drove behind them, and they took us to, and it was
middle of the night.
It was like 10 p.m. or something, and then they had this huge barrel, and they were doing these lagarde. So we kind of, climbed the ladder, and so we became friends, So those are the experiences we seek, like where, where we kind of can meet the people and keep friends. And say, "Oh, you come to Willamette Valley, come." In fact,
in New Zealand.
Yeah, and when we went to New Zealand, we met a couple. They have it's a fairly big winery. They have like a lunch place and called Carrick, in southern, in Otago. And we just made friends, and then they said, "Oh, we're visiting Willamette Valley in summer." They stay with us, and it's just random thing, and we're still friends, and we had such a great time, So it's just one of those things we try to more go in that direction. So that's what even we try to do when people come, like, it's like,
The personal connections.
The personal connections. And
So tell me a little bit about the future here. Let's start with the bigger future, Oregon wine industry more in general. What comes next in the Oregon wine industry? What are you excited for?
Yeah, I think we're excited for the growth. And again, I think this year there's been from, selling grapes and things. So there's going to be some adjustment which happens. And I think there's also these, again, geopolitical headwinds sometimes where some news comes and people react to it in terms of, alcohol and things. So obviously there's a reaction to that, but definitely I think it'll adjust itself and figure out, but
it'll definitely make a mark, I think, pretty soon.
Oregon, because just the number of people coming in as well, number of people realizing, kind of what can grow here and the potential. We just hope that it doesn't become like Napa and Sonoma, where there's so many big people who come in and it just becomes very commercial. Be great if it grows but still keeps that unique character of Willamette Valley. So that's what we look for. So.
And on the smaller scale, future for yourselves, obviously you have a lot going on between the vineyard and wine and Artisan Vino. Tell me what's on the horizon that you're excited about, and what comes next.
Yeah, we want to grow Artisan Vino, definitely. Yeah. And if we can sustain itself and do well, then we don't have to do a tech job. So, and the same with Vineyard. If we can sell more wine, even with Smera, then so that's what we're looking for. Is just keep the size and do more quality.
Yeah.
I mean, and then also do more where we have more tastings and we have more pop-ups and where we can bring more people in here. Because sometimes having that tasting experience rather than just online also makes a big difference, and partner with other wineries like Wrigley. Jody was, we keep talking that we go do some, we did once their soup night. I made soups and we did tasting, with their wine as well. And so do more of those. So that's where, because I don't think we're looking to kind of expand the vineyard and be big growers and all that. want to do more with this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your biggest achievement? What are you proudest of?
A lot of things. I'm proud of my movies, 3 movies, very proud. And the second one, the vineyard, and obviously very proud of my boys. You know, they have done well, which they say, Mom and Dad never give me credit. I think, here you go.
It's in the archive now. There's nothing.
Yeah, nothing else. It cannot be. I can still edit it out, right? No, life has been great.
They served the country and they've done well. But yeah, I think we had a fantastic journey, you know, so that's where, you know, coming from India and going
We sometimes think
yeah.
we'll be sitting in McMinnville eating, you know, I say, okay, we came from Chennai, India, and we are sitting here in McMinnville. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
And growing, I mean, yeah, grapes and making our own wine. I mean, how crazy that is, right? People think, oh, how did you come to United States? That's a question we get all the time. Oh, you left your, you know, all the family. Of course we did, but that was a choice. We were young, and we wanted to
Explore and
explore
do
and-
different things.
yeah. There is no end, you know, for us. At least it's not like, oh, I want this, then my life will be over. I always have a saying, American dream is never done. You go to a certain stage and it keeps going. That's what is the beauty of American dream. You know, you don't want to be stagnant. And what America has offered us is just unbelievable. You know, I don't think we as an immigrant in any other country would be, you know, they would welcome us this way. So, yeah, I've been thankful and very happy to be here in the United States and making a living, right? Yeah.
I'm curious about family back home in India. What do they think about what you're doing?
Crazy, you know.
Yeah, my mom keeps coming here, and then she'll say, okay, when are you stopping this? I'll say, okay, I mean, until I can do, I'll do it, you know.
So it was interesting. His mom, you know, she's 80 now, and she came to live with us for a while. And she's from a city, and she
Well educated.
Well, but she didn't like this, you know, farm life
wilderness.
at all. So I mean, again, she's also, you know, at least we came here in early 20s, were kind of wanted to and willing to adapt and meet people and new experiences, but she doesn't want to change her experience, right? She's
No blame, because
I mean,
she has lived
she came
in
at an
India for
age
so
where,
long.
you know, she was here, she was in her 70s here, and she lived for a year and said, I want to go back. Because she doesn't have a community, you know, and she doesn't drive, so we have to take her, and she's not interested in the outdoors, gardening, she doesn't drink. So she was just missing. And so she went back, but she'll come, you know, she'd rather come and go rather than move for a long time. But yeah, so it's kind of also interesting to see generations, right? Like, you know, with us, it was no problem at all. But with her, she had just had a very hard time adjusting, you know, to this new setting, so.
Yeah, to her point, they think we are crazy.
So, oh, can you not live in a town where there's neighbors and, you know, and all that? Yeah. Yeah.
No, I'll tell her, oh, she'll close all the windows and everything. I said, nobody is going to come. If you can leave the door open, which we have done. You know, windows are open, this thing is open, nothing. If they really want to get you, it'll be hard for them to drive up the hill.
They can't sneak up here.
Yeah, you have to come here, right? I mean, no, we love it up here. I wouldn't change anything. Yeah.
Well, That's all the questions that I have for
Okay.
you today. Is there anything that I didn't ask that I should have, or anything we didn't cover that
I
you'd like
think
to
you
cover?
covered everything.
Yeah,
which is
that was a good-
Yeah, you heard.
Yeah, you were pretty good.
Yes.
Not so bad yourself. Fantastic. Thank you both so
Yeah.
much
Oh,
for
thanks.
sharing your story with us, sharing your beautiful space with us. Go ahead and let you off the hook.